this, let's bring in former White House senior policy advisor on law enforcement for George W. Bush and a veteran of the Iraq War, Paul Chabot, as well as former deputy national security advisor to the vice president, Steve Yates. Gentlemen, good morning. Paul, we have to start with this just disturbing new report. An American journalist reporting on the region from Iraq has reportedly been kidnapped right off the streets of Baghdad. We're showing the video right here for our audience. Take a look at this. This is a video of Shelley Kittleson's apparent kidnapping. You can see several figures in the corner of the screen. One seems forcing somebody into a vehicle right there. American officials believe it is the work of an Iran-funded terror group that's in Iraq. There has also been an arrest. I guess I have to ask now, is this the next phase of the Iran war? You know, proxy kidnappers operating in other countries and targeting Americans, Paul?
Yeah, I really think all the above are on the table for Iran and their proxies across the globe. Look, this is what they do, and this is what they've known to to bring terror upon the free world. And so whether it's kidnappings, terrorist attacks, or when I was in Iraq in 08-09, supplying IEDs to kill our men and women there as well. They are a large terror network with proxies that are going to continue to attack Western interests. This is what they do. And so it's not surprising. Unfortunately, I think we'll see more of this, regardless of what happens with the president's address tonight or going forward as a nation.
Yeah, I mean, Steve, this is terrifying. You know, Kittleson, is a veteran freelance journalist. There she is right there for several international media outlets specializing on specifically security issues, which of course includes the Iran war. Do you predict possibly the kidnappers will try to use her as a bargaining chip in those peace talks that are underway between Iran and the United States?
They may. I think that would be extremely unwise. I think this kind of activity is something that sadly has happened in the region. It's definitely was a feature in the war in Iraq throughout the entire period, that there was destabilization, infiltration, and murder of American soldiers throughout that entire experience, all at the hand of Iran. It was very underreported at the time. And so it's just a part of what happens when you have these three layers that the president has talked about of nuclear, missile, and launch capability, and these tentacles throughout the region. All three of those were part of this mission to be defanged and degraded. That work remains. I think what the president is about to hint to is somewhat of a burden-sharing approach as major military operations might de-escalate, but I don't think that we're looking to leave, in part because things like this will continue to happen.
Yeah, it's just such a scary situation there. But yesterday, President Trump, he really called out the United Kingdom for not doing their part to secure the Strait of Hormuz. Shortly thereafter, you've got Buckingham Palace's public relations machine seeming to ramp up the hype for King Charles's reciprocal visit to the White House. I guess the question, Paul, is, can the King of England have any influence on getting the Prime Minister on board with helping out more on the Strait of Hormuz? I mean, we heard Keir Starmer actually address the public this morning saying this is not our war. We will not be drawn into the conflict. What do you make of this?
Look, the UK already was targeted. We had a joint base, Indian Ocean. Diego Garcia, where Iran fired 2 ballistic missiles. One failed, one was intercepted. But what that had shown, I hope the free world here, is that the distance that Iran can target is beyond the Middle East. Their trajectory potentially hitting Diego Garcia now shows that they could target Great Britain. They could target Moscow. They can target places throughout Europe. And so this is absolutely critical for their nation and all nations in Europe and NATO especially to look at what the capabilities of NATO are and why we absolutely have to degrade Iran across the board. Otherwise, they will remain a threat, not just to the Middle East, but as we now know, to Europe as well.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. So, Steve, Secretary of War Pete Hegseth revealing his secret trip over the weekend. He actually visited the troops over in the Middle East, and he also reassured the American public that his visit to the troops does not signify a pending ground invasion. Let's take a listen.
You can't fight and win a war if you tell your adversary what you are willing to do or what you are not willing to do, to include boots on the ground. Our adversary right now thinks there are 15 different ways we could come at them with boots on the ground. And guess what? There are.
Yeah, what do you make of that? Again, visiting the troops, we're sending more troops. Steve, your thoughts? I'm very curious.
Well, we are in a moment of hyper speculation.
Yeah.
The administration is putting a lot of options on the table. And I think the Secretary of War was basically speaking the truth. When you're dealing with an adversary and in a complex military operation, you want them to think that you could come from under any bed or around any corner or out of any closet at any time. And it doesn't mean you're going to do all those things, but you are capable of those things, and that's your leverage. Hopefully to get a deal that de-escalates and gets freedom of navigation reopened around the Strait of Hormuz and other kinds of primary targets. But if not, we definitely have a full tool set that is at our disposal to impose outcomes. That is compellence for an enemy. It's an inducement for allies to get on board. I think that's all the administration is really doing. But I would say thank you to the Secretary to visiting the troops. It matters a great deal. I have not served in uniform in wartime, but I've seen this kind of visit. I'm impressed at the OPSEC and being able to come and do it without it really being disclosed in advance. But I think it matters a great deal to the troops to see the Secretary come front line.
Yeah, definitely. And hopefully we'll learn more tonight when President Trump addresses the nation regarding the war at 9 p.m. Paul Chabot, Steve Yates, gentlemen, fantastic conversation. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, a whole lot more to cover right here on Wake Up America.